edition of This Old Gibson. This is a 1977 Gibson Dove Standard. My name's Scotty D, here in Nashville, Tennessee. This one's getting a neck reset and a refret. Typical restoration stuff. It's a 1976 and serial number on it is 06143023. I already did some of the prep work. Let's get started. Also on a personal note, 1977 was an important year for me. It was the year I got my very first record album. I was only 8 years old, but I knew after seeing TV commercials for these guys in the Detroit City area that I was hooked. I needed a guitar. And the very next year I'd get my first guitar. And it was also red. There was a lot of red. Was red popular in 77? So this one, the serial number is 06143023. If your 70s Gibson starts with a 06, it was a 77. Now, in 76, all the serial numbers started with a 00, if I recall. It was really messed up back then. But the one thing I do remember about 1976 was the big deal that year was that it was the United States of America's bicentennial. The country was 200 years old in 1976. So that was a big deal. The big deal with this one is this neck heel. And it's because of this 35-degree slant on the neck heel that we can't use the Stuart McDonald neck pulling jig. We have to inject steam through the other side and chuck it up into the StewMac guitar vise. I'll show you how I did it. Like I said, I already did the grunt work on this one, but I'll walk you through what I did. So the first things first is gently warming this fingerboard extension so that we can get palette knives in there and loosen the whole thing without damaging the finish, the pick guard, or removing the pick guard. And what I did is I took this silicone heating pad and I get it to go in against the neck block and kind of bend at a right angle like this so it gets a little bit of heat underneath the soundboard, just like that. It's that easy. And then I plug it into this variable. It's called a router speed control, and it has output voltage that's, I scale it back to about 70, not 100%, but 70. And I let it warm up, and I also put the sealing iron here across this area. And it kind of looks like this. I put a bag here. I put the sealing iron here, and both elements are heating from top and bottom. I plug this one in at full blast. This one doesn't get that hot. I let it go for about 12 minutes and then whoosh, go right in there. It softens the glue line really nice. And that's my new method. I don't think it causes any damage to the inside. And this one had some damage here. It had a crack and a sound hole misalignment that I want to show you a new tool that I made for realigning sound holes. And this is the spreader bar that Pat DeBurrow describes in his C.F. Martin repair book. It's 3 parts. This part goes up against the tail block. This is an optional piece for different sized guitars. You could actually cut one of these pieces to different lengths. And then there's the threaded rod. This is the 5/16 by 18 threaded rod. And you just stick all 3 pieces inside the guitar and then assemble them inside the guitar. The piece of wood here, the bottom has a couple of tacks on it so that it keeps it from sliding around down at the bottom. It kind of grabs onto the heel, the tacks do. And the length of the bar is 9.5 inches. And the smaller piece of conduit is 3¼ inches. And I noticed when I was adjusting my through knob that the rod was rotating, so I put these two nuts, a wing nut and a regular nut there, so that I could reach in through the sound hole and grab onto it with a pair of vice grips to keep the rod from rotating as I turned the thumb wheel, or the knob, the through knob. That's called a through knob. Anyways, it's great for pushing the guitar and spreading out the body when you have a giant cracks on either side. This one was resistant to what I was doing because it's not cracked on this side, only one side it was cracked. But it worked. I got it all glued up with epoxy, and now I'm ready to move forward. There's actually one more piece to it. I forgot to show you. And actually I misspoke. This goes against the tail. You get it inside the guitar, and this is 5/16 for a reason. You don't want to use 1/4 20 rod. It's too flexible. This is the minimum, diameter rod that you want to use for this, because you need a rigid piece. Anyways, this is just a small piece of MDF that has a hole drilled in it and a dime epoxied in. That's so the rod can register up against it this is at the neck, and that is at the heel. And this is the one that has the tacks. The conduit is epoxied into it, and there it is. It's actually a number of 4 pieces that you'll need if you ever want to try this. And as you can see by these, this piece is 2 1/4 by 2, and this piece is 2 by 3 1/4. And this, I believe, is 1/2 inch. No, it's more like, it might be 1/2 inch inside diameter conduit. I think they call it 1/2 inch. It looks more like 5/8, but yeah, good stuff. There's also a washer here to register up against that. Brilliant. That's what they use at the Martin factory. I said it again. I said heel. That's the tail. That's the tail or end block. Now, this piece goes right up against it goes in the neck block, but what you have to do is you have to take a little tape, make a little circle, and then tape it to the inside neck block, up towards the top. And I have that arrow there to remind you, go up. You want it up as high as possible. That way the rod is pushing towards the top, or the soundboard, not down at the bottom. The problem is the shoulders are collapsing in like this on the guitar. You want to push them back. So you need to get that up, and you'll be good. Okay, hear that? You'll know when you hit that void, because you'll hear that hollow area down in there. But I like to take a guitar string just to make sure everything's opened up there, and then get the heaters in. And in '77 they put jumbo wide frets in their guitars. If you were watching last week's video, I was talking about how narrow the 100-year-old guitar was, and I actually, they're more narrow than I described. This little guy right here, the Regal guitar, these frets are only 52 thousandths of an inch wide. They're actually taller than they are wide. So they're hard to get used to, but I think my customer's gonna get used to them because he's gonna love the sound of that guitar. I've got another one over here from the 1932 National Triolean. That one also has the same skinny frets. They're the most narrow frets I've ever seen. And this one's ridiculous. Pear wood or fruit wood neck and fretboard. Super skinny frets. It's really just good for slide guitar. Metal body, a wooden neck. That one's the 59 Gibson LG1. We're hydrating the body in that bag. Got a crack at got a sound hole crack, fingerboard crack on that one too. So this is the setup I was talking about here. I usually actually get the neck a little closer to the body, or the vise a little closer to the body, like this. And then I angle the guitar back a little like this, the headstock. That way when the steam goes in and the water drips out, it doesn't drip down the back of the guitar or down the neck too much. It just drips off over here. So I'll put paper towels below And then I'll take my steam needle and I'll go in, say I go in the bass side right like this. And what I'll do with the body is I'll pull the body towards me, and I'll do 20 seconds of steam moving downwards toward the bottom, moving up towards the top. And I'll do this, I'll wait a couple seconds, I'll wipe up, and then I'll go into the treble side, same thing, 20 seconds, and I'll push the body away from me to create a little gap. And at that point, after about 20 seconds per side, I usually wipe up again. It's been a few minutes or whatever. I'll position the vise in a way where I can get behind the guitar and just pull down on the body and give it a little wiggle, and it comes off just like that. This is my whole steam setup right here. It's this. Put the water in here, attach the hose. I usually wear protection on gloves, then I put these over my forearms, and then I put goggles over my glasses, just in case steam comes shooting out. I don't want it to scorch me. Here's the steam needle. This is the Stumac needle. And that's my steam setup. I got it on a rolling service cart. On these maple necks, I need all the help I can get to get things started, so I usually take my right angle central pneumatic random orbit sander, and I get the air compressor going. I got about 60 psi. Check this out, we had a little shim right from the factory. They must have shaped it wrong or something. They had to put in this little loose little sliver of wood right there. So actually, just by skimming that off, I probably don't have to touch this side. I'm just going to be removing, yeah, there it is. I can peel that right off of there. Wow. Okay, so I'll skim that off just a little, but this just gives me a head start right now. So we had a really nice separation of the neck and body. It's actually been a few weeks and I've cleaned things up a bit. I like taking a craft stick and cutting off the rounded edge. I stick on 80 grit sandpaper and I go around all the surfaces and get all the old, as much as the old glue residue as possible. They used an aliphatic resin, sorry. I'm probably going to use fish glue when I set this neck because hot hide glue it's not as predictable when you've got a synthetic glue involved. So I think fish glue is a little more tolerant of contaminated wood, contaminated with synthetic modern glues, that is. Those modern glues get down in the pores of the wood and they're hard to get out. More PVA is the worse than aliphatic resin. But let's see how the neck fits on here to the body. I've been shaping the neck heel just a little bit here with this very sharp chisel. And I'm about ready to do a couple sandpaper pulls with the neck on the body. I just want to undercut, leaving the perimeter as the only part that touches the body. So undercut. I'll leave about 1/8 of an inch perimeter. and then we'll pull some sandpaper. Little blow off here, just for show. I usually use the vacuum. And a couple sandpaper pulls. This marries the neck to the body and changes the neck angle. Now I'm going to test the neck angle by jigging it up and stringing it and tuning it to tension. Now I'm going to fit the shim. We're going to glue on a maple shim onto the base side dovetail, and I'll force the joint together with a bar clamp. This will leave chalk marks on the shim, and then I'll know exactly where to remove material. We'll take it on and off the body a few times to get this to fit just right. I'll use a file and then some sandpaper on that craft stick before we commit to gluing it. The other thing that happened was a little bit of the lacquer started to bulge away from the body, so I did a little bit of a finish repair. I dry sanded it with some Bufflex sandpaper and polished it with the Meguiar's Ultra Cut 105. Now I'm going to show you where I usually use acetone to clean off the fretboard extension, but it wasn't cleaning up because a lot of that aliphatic resin glue was stuck still down in the pores. So what I decided to do is use hot water. I used hot water, a wire brush, and that ended up cleaning up all that old resin out of the pores. You can see it scraping off here on this here marking knife. And this is one of the reasons why it's so hard to use hot hide glue on a joint that's been contaminated with modern synthetic or aliphatic resin glue, is because that aliphatic resin stays stuck down into the pores. You could see it on the ebony, because the ebony is such a dark wood. It was really hard to see on the maple. So I'm using fish glue. It's more tolerant to contaminated surfaces, and it's most likely still down in the pores of the maple, so fish glue it is. The thing with fish glue is that it takes 24 hours minimum clamping time and at least 3 days to a week before you should really put any tension or stress the joint at all. Hot hide glue, you can leave it clamped up for 6 hours, string it up the next day, and have your customer pick it up a few days later, whatever you need to do. Either way, they're both good glues. The fish glue is toxic, though. The stuff we get from StewMac has some additives in there that are not healthy. So you'll want to use gloves. I don't know if I used gloves here, but I usually don't touch the stuff either way. I use paper towels, moistened paper towels, and a scoop stick to get the squeeze out from around the fingerboard. And then I have these 12-inch radiused red oak cauls that I place over the fretboard extension. I use a sound hole clamp right down the middle and 2 quick grip clamps on either side of the C-shaped sound hole clamp. So a total of 4 clamps, plus we have the scissor jack pushing the heel right up against the side of the body. So we kind of have 5 clamps. We'll get that squeeze out with the wet paper towels. These are everyday paper towels. We'll use Brawny, Sparkle, great value everyday paper towels for cleanup, and we'll use Viva paper towels if we need to do any buffing or applying of polishing compounds. It's kind of dark down here in this corner at 6 a.m. in the morning. This is before the skylight, before the sun comes through the skylight. So I got to look at it and inspect it with the flashlight. So the next day, I get to take the clamps off and start heating up the neck. Because if you recall, this neck had a forward bow of 10,000ths of an inch. I'm heating up my silicone heating pad with this speed controller. I dial it back a skosh. I don't want to let it run at full temperature. But I've got a 250 watt heat lamp up above and a silicone heating pad down below. With my thermometer, I'm getting close to 200 degrees on the surface of the rosewood. After about 20 minutes, I'll lay a couple cauls over the top and get that neck into a serious back bow. I'll let it cool like this overnight. And that should correct the truss rod functional problem. It was the neck was twisted and it wouldn't straighten all the way by tightening the truss rod nut. So I removed the brass acorn nut and I'm going to resurface it with Dynaglide on a diamond stone. A lot of times these nuts get distorted and they get burrs on them from years and years and years of over tightening. This pretty much rescues the neck every time. Now that it's resurfaced, I'll lube it up with some brown lithium grease and or ball bearing grease. But you can use Vaseline. You can use any type of grease. All right, so it's ready to go. It's ready to be put back into service. And we'll find out what happened tomorrow when I take the clamps off. If I overdo it, we can always reheat it and press it the other way. Boy, it has a whole different feel to it now. It's nice and squishy. Before it was like turn, crick, crick, stop. Couldn't turn it anymore. But now it's just nice and smooth. We can see here with the relief gauge that we're at plus 20 thousandths. We've got a 20 thousandths of an inch back bow. That's too much. Straight edge rocks over the frets. It teeter-totters. So we better back this off. On second thought, with a back bow of 15 thousandths, 16 thousandths, it's a good time to remove the frets. I like to score along either side of the fret. And then I drop down in some Simple Green. Simple Green has a little bit of soap in it, and the soap breaks the surface tension, allows the water to seep down into the crack better, whereas plain water beads up on the surface. Simple Green, like I said, it just creeps right down into those slots, lubricates them, and allows me to pull the fret out. A lot of people would go ahead and heat the frets with the soldering pen, but by putting it in a back bow and using the soapy water to break up some of the grime and break that surface tension, it did not need to be heated up. They all pulled out with no chip out. I'm only going to replace frets 1 through 13. We'll true up the rosewood with a 12-inch radius caul. You'll notice that I have a neck support that's adjustable under the 6th fret, 7th fret. It's a quarter 20 threaded rod with a through knob that I can turn to adjust the straightness of the neck. I can put it into a back bow. I can put it into a forward bow. I can control the neck as I'm putting in the frets. I can move the support back and forth to go right under where I'm hammering. And I can also use it to test with the relief gauge as I'm putting the frets in. I can back it off, back the support down, and see if my fret tangs are forcing the neck into a back bow. You'll want to see what's happening. It's called compression fretting. You can control it really well with this jig. Well, since it's a bound fretboard, we're going to have to nip the tangs. We'll use the StewMac Deluxe Fret Tang Nipper. And I use OBG in the fret slots. Old brown glue. Almost there. 2 more frets to go. I sanded up to 600 grit on the fretboard. Next day again. Always wait till the next day before I start clipping off fret ends. Trash can down below the workstation to catch the fret ends. And if you're interested in this 3D printed neck support, you can get it on Luth Prints. Luke Heaton at Whittlesticks prints these out and ships them. All right, this is my StewMac snap file. And then also on a really old and worn board, it's good to use a short file. A lot of the times the player can wear the neck into a strange shape. It's not perfectly straight like it used to be from the factory. I'll bevel the fret ends with the fret end dressing file. And then I'll knock those sharp corners off. This is a very delicate procedure. Next, I'll use a couple different length beams and sand and level the tops of the frets. So yesterday I glued in the maple cross-grain veneer here. You can probably see it in the mirror a little bit. See that little... Oh, it's not going to focus very well, is it? No, that's going to be hard to focus with all these lights. You can see it there. It looks like a triangular radius deal. Anyways, it's in there now. It's very tidy. Very tidy indeed. It sure is. And then I leveled the frets and kind of sort of recrowned them just to make sure that there was no string rattle. So I roughed in this new bone nut, which is almost there. I've lowered the slots, the string slots, to an acceptable height. I'm going to end up taking it out and getting it just right on the disc sander and then glue it in with some Tight Bond Original. Polish it. Actually, I polish them first. This one's unpolished, but it'll get there. And play this thing for you guys. I've got some really sloppy pinholes. I might decide to work on those afterwards, after I do this demo and publish the video, but for the most part, it's ready to go. Hear that? Overtones, very nice. Right now it's tuned to E flat with 12s, but what I think I'll do is when I take these strings off and polish and finish everything up, I'm going to string it back up with 11s, tune it up to full pitch. The 12s are simulating 11s, tuned down a little bit, that is. But anyways, he had 10s on this guitar, and I think it was because it was so stiff and hard to play and the action was so high, he got away with playing it with 10s on it. But I think 11s will sound better. Yep, I think 11s. Will sound good. They'll really sound good. Don't you think? I appreciate you guys sticking around. We'll see you next week. Later.